Havlicek steals it. Havlicek stole the ball. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
United to Alici. Alici powers in.
Won their sixth NBA championship.
Gibson swing. This is gonna be a home run. Unbelievable! I don't believe what I just saw.
Hello, I'm Chris Fowler for Sportscentury. Jackie Robinson was blessed with all the gifts. Smart, handsome, and superbly athletic, he played 4 sports in college. Though football brought him greater fame, Robinson was determined to play baseball. And like many black men before him, he headed into the obscurity of the Negro Leagues. Then, 2 circumstances conspired to make him a major world player of the 20th century. The first, a white man with a passion for racial justice. And the other, a not-so-simple factor known as timing.
There was a great outburst of energy and optimism that hit right after the war. Not only had the war ended in triumph, but the whole long period that included the Depression had come to an end. It was replaced by a sense of possibility and optimism that had not been there for a long time.
The post-war glow fell everywhere, it seemed, but not on the African American, who worked and struggled in a world apart, separate and unequal.
It really was the land of opportunity, the land of milk and honey, the land of decency, except it was still segregated.
There's all the GIs who came back, who had felt, I'm American, I fought for my country, and they come home, and I can't live where I want to live, I can't sit in the front of a bus.
There were instances in which German prisoners of war based in this country had more rights on army bases than did the black people in uniform. The German prisoners of war could go to officers' clubs, and the black people couldn't.
Like a virulent social disease, racism infected every aspect of our life. Not even the national pastime was spared.
Our inability to get black players in that game was such a symbol of our inability to be Americans. That if America was embodied by, baseball, mom, and apple pie, the fact that black players were not allowed to be on the same field as white players said that we weren't part of any of that.
When Jackie Robinson breaks into baseball, it's 7 years before Brown versus Board of Education. It's almost a decade before Martin Luther King comes to national prominence. It's almost 2 decades before significant civil rights legislation. It's hard to imagine the America, for those of us who weren't there to see it, the America into which Jackie Robinson projects himself.
There's no whiter white than Dodger White. That's true to this day. And when he came out, that color of his skin against the color of that uniform was just mind-boggling to look at.
Suddenly when you saw that, you said, everybody I have ever seen on a major league playing field has been white. Something is terribly, terribly wrong.
They gave the black community a sense of hope, a sense of pride. And if this young black man can succeed with the Brooklyn Dodgers, we all can succeed.
It was the beginning of building the second half of the 20th century.
A year later, with the signing of an executive order by President Harry Truman, the armed forces became integrated. And in 1954, the Supreme Court ruled that public schools must accept black students. It all began in August of 1945, when Dodgers general manager Branch Rickey tested the man he hoped would make his audacious dream a reality.
They come face to face in this room with Robinson not at all sure why he was there.
Rickey played the role of the racists and screamed all these racist epithets at him.
Somebody strikes you across the face and calls you so-and-so. What do? Robinson said, do you want somebody who doesn't have the courage to fight back? And Ricky said, no, I want somebody who has the courage not to fight back.
Jackie grasped the significance of what this meant, not only to him, not only to the Dodgers, to my grandfather, but to his whole race.
I got on the horn, I said, this is all black battalions. I said, hear this, hear this, hear this. Woke everybody up. I said, Branch Rickey just signed Jackie Robinson to an organized baseball contract. They hooped, they hollered, they shot their guns. We didn't sleep much that night.
In early 1946, owners voted 15-1 against blacks playing in organized ball. Realizing he was flying solo, Rickey assigned Robinson to the Dodgers spring training camp that had been discreetly relocated to Cuba. With manager Leo DeRocher presiding, the great experiment had hardly got underway when tension from within threatened the team's stability on a trip to Panama.
On that first trip, I would say that the other boys, myself included, were not enamored about sitting at the table with Jackie. Dixie Walker actually put it in writing.
I'm very aware of the petition because it was brought to me by a couple of ball players and I gave it back to him. I wouldn't sign it.
Leo hears from one of his coaches, players are going to sign a petition. So it's 2 in the morning, he wakes up his coaches, get everybody. And Leo says, I hear you got a petition going around that you won't play with Robinson. Well, I want to tell you what you can do with your petition. You can wipe your ass with it. I would play an elephant if he had talent, and I would send my own brother home to make room for him. Now go back to bed, and I don't want to hear another word about the petition.
And Mr. Rickey called for us one-on-one and said, I understand that there's some objection to Jackie Robinson joining us. If he can do better than the other man we've got, he's going to play. You understand that? Yes, sir.
When Robinson was ready for the majors 1 season later, rumors of player strikes spread like brush fires throughout the league. Dousing one such fire was a strongly worded telegram to the Cubs from Commissioner Happy Chandler. National League President Ford Frick dealt personally with another on the Cardinals.
Ford Frick was president of the National League at the time. And he heard that 3 players with the St. Louis Baseball Club had decided they would not get on the field with Jackie. And he said, gentlemen, he said, I understand you're not going to play today. That's right. He said, fine. If you don't play today, you will never play baseball again. Not as long as I'm president of the league, and I just signed a new 7-year contract this morning. Are you going to play? Yes, sir, we're going to play.
But once play began, the Dodger rookies suffered an unremitting torrent of racial abuse.
From the stands, we can hear, hey, Robinson, king of the niggers. Or, hey, baboon, why don't you go back to the jungle?
They threw black cats on the field. They threw watermelons on the field, you know, and hey, boy, give me a shine.
Word got around that he was instructed not to retaliate. I don't know of anybody that could have put up with what Jackie went through.
Robinson had a crown of thorns. How would you like to go to a ballpark and be called nigger every day? They didn't just throw at Robinson to brush him back because it obviously didn't do any good. They threw at him to hurt him.
If he slid into second base, they tried to tag him with the ball in his face, knock teeth out. They just tried to do everything to persuade him not to play baseball. But he stayed right there with them.
He understood what he had to do. And at the same time, I mean, emotionally, psychologically, that had to have ravaged him.
Practicing what, for him, was uncharacteristic passivity, Robinson shared his anguish with Rachel, whom he'd married a year earlier.
She was his rock of Gibraltar. He said to Rachel, I don't know about this. He said, still half the guys won't talk to me. I wonder if it's worthwhile. And he said she just held him and says, you know, Jack, we knew it wasn't going to be easy.
The worst came on April 22nd in Ebbets Field, when Robinson was hit with the nastiest string of racist epithets he'd ever heard. Compliments of the Phillies' Alabama-bred manager, Ben Chapman.
Ben made no qualms about how he felt about the blacks. He called them niggers. And that's what he called Jackie. And that's what he would say to you if you were playing with a nigger. How can you play with a nigger?
Playing out of position at first base, Robinson heard every slur, every insult hurled from the stands and the visitors' dugout. The batter's box was even more hazardous. After an 0 for 20 stretch in April,
rumors flew that he would soon be sent down.
Jackie said, man, this is it. I think this is the day I'm going to blow up. He said, then suddenly Reese came over and put his arm around me and says, forget those guys, Jack. Let's play.
Here's this Southern boy, walks over and puts his arm on Jackie, gesturing, saying, hey, this is my teammate. I accepted him. Why don't you do the same? Finally, players like Richie Ashburn told the Phillies, hey, get off of this guy. You're making him better. And that was true.
Surviving his fierce baptism of racial fire, Robinson burned brilliantly through the summer. He led the Dodgers in 7 offensive categories, won Rookie of the Year, and took his teammates to the pennant. His success thundered throughout America's black and white communities, raising the bar of expectations for an entire race.